Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and we're always happy to catch up with the goings on at Ondas and Eric Brock, the CEO. So many things going as fast as lightning, and Eric joins us here again on the National Defense. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Randy, and thank you for having me. As you said, we continue to work hard, and it's great to be back and kind of give you an update on what we're doing. So thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
you guys are contributing so many great things to the nation's defense, and it just seems like the news these days, AI is it's not only moving fast, it's moving lightning fast. Is that kind of the perception?
Yeah, no question about that. It's not just the perception, it's our reality. And when you think about artificial intelligence for systems and autonomous systems, a company like Ondas, and remember, when I talk about autonomous systems, I'm talking about drones. Some of them are, the ones that are tactical. They're quadcopters. Others are fixed wings, flying at higher and longer distances. We have ground vehicles and the like. And the development of those drones are all powered by artificial intelligence, right? The engineering around them, but then the operations as well. When you're making things autonomous, the intelligence is required. So that's in and around what we call physical autonomy, where you have sensors kind of sensing the environment and software that allows these systems to operate. So intelligence is really integral to what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about real time. With everything going on in the world right now, there was just a drone rescue the other day, and so it's not only happening, but it's happening in a big way, and is proving to be extremely effective.
It is, and that was an event that was really a milestone for the industry, for folks like ourselves. What you had there was, a traditional helicopter was attacked by actually an unmanned system. So that was a drone that took the Apache down, regrettably. But fortunately, the pilots were able to eject, and when they did, they landed in the sea, and it was an unmanned surface vessel, right? A boat with it was totally unmanned. Went out, picked them up, rescued them, and brought them back safely. And that really demonstrates the power, not just the power and the value of the technologies, but the maturity, right? These systems are now having major impacts all across the battlefield and security operations.
Yeah, that was just fascinating to see. I mean, you see something like that, and you and I have talked before about all of the innovation that's going on right now and in defense, and to see something like that had to kind of set you on fire a little bit, huh?
It totally did. Yeah. I mean, again, we work so hard at this. We see what we're doing. It's really important for companies like Ondas to have our peers also advancing technology, because at the end of the day, when we're doing what we're doing, is often enabling what somebody else is doing, and vice versa. So, as more and more unmanned systems are deployed, more and more autonomous systems are deployed, getting them to work together becomes critically important. So again, there's sort of this rising tide, and all of that is to the benefit of the public, because it gives us tools to keep America safe and secure.
Yeah, we're talking to Eric Brock, CEO of Ondas, here on the National Defense, and not only that, and I know that we've kind of talked about this before, and you consider this every day as well. But our men and women in the military that are on the ground and deployed, especially, we've definitely heard from them when that happened. And you talk about a morale boost, a confidence boost, to know that some of these systems, because some of these systems, they're in development. Some of them are ready to be deployed, but sometimes there's not a situation where they're ever tested in battle. So that was so nice to see, and something else that makes the military so proud and happy they work, right?
Randy, that's a terrific idea. I mean, or point you're making, because when we're as just the general public, observing what's going on in defense and homeland security. If you're doing that, you can't miss what's going on in Ukraine with Russia, what's going on in Israel vis-a-vis Iran and the Gulf. And what's quite clear is that these unmanned systems, the autonomous systems, are dramatically changing the battlefield. And I think it's not always obvious to the general public that we're making our advancements here to continue to be leaders in terms of capabilities. Right, our Department of War is armed with these tools all day long, but you might not be aware of it. So, and of course, if you're not aware of it, you have this concern from a security standpoint that maybe we're falling behind. And what I can assure you is that industry, working very closely with the Department of Defense, are bringing amazing capabilities. And when we're there, and then we start deploying them, systems that folks just haven't heard of before, but when we see them working so well and so effectively, that can only and should only increase our confidence that we can protect our country.
Yeah, and it also demonstrates, I think, too, Eric, about the need for those kind of technical skills that the men and women can bring to the military in terms of drone operation, behind the scenes technology, the
Mhm.
inside the actual systems. Um,
Yep.
and that's a whole other. It's amazing to me about how this entire cottage industry of defense technology has created a whole breed of new jobs in the military, right?
Yeah, that's huge. As technology evolves and starts to, be deployed across, various, operations, both in the field when you think about systems that are defending, and taking the offense, to the adversary. You're also going, back into the operations of the Army, Air Force, Marines, and elsewhere, and transforming those as well. So really, from the back office to the front lines, you're seeing transformations, and that's creating a tremendous number of opportunities for jobs and skill development, and which will only ultimately help the private sector in a really serious way. So what we see that at Ondas, right? We see folks who are being trained, and in some instances, of course, we're training them ourselves, right, on our systems, and then they go into the private sector and can be, that much more productive. So, I think this is certainly a critical aspect of what we do, training the men and women who are defending the country, but then they can go, become, producing, on our side of the table as well, if that's where their career paths take them. So it's really fantastic.
That's what I was just thinking. They get that training in the military, and then they come to work for Ondas, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's a great system there. I want to talk to about some of your partners here, Palantir, most notably, that you guys have worked with and are working with now. Give us a little idea of what you guys are doing with them and what their capabilities are.
Sure. Yeah, we have a very substantial partnership with Palantir that we've been building over the last 6+ months. This came initially through, well, we had long-term relationships. And just for your listeners, Palantir is a really important company in terms of providing the backbone of a lot of artificial intelligence enabled systems around command and control of military assets, across the board, really, but particularly you see that as being impactful on the battlefield. So, what Palantir does with companies like Ondas is they'll apply their AI-enabled tools to help us run our businesses more effectively. So that's a system or a program they call Warp Speed. So that is really all about making our operations more efficient and scalable. Because of course, companies like Ondas need to grow a lot. So that's one aspect of it. What's maybe even more exciting, if you intangible when you think about what we're doing with customers is, they're able to integrate Ondas and our autonomous systems. That's going from all the way into the stratosphere now. So we have a high altitude balloon with a company that we acquired called Worldview. We've operationalized the stratosphere, which means we can deploy these balloons, keep them in station and have persistent ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance over areas of interest for, say, the U.S. Navy or the Air Force or Army. And that's a really important tool that then Palantir can start to integrate with us across multiple domains. And those domains, our stratosphere is just below space. It's not an area of a domain we think a lot about, but it's becoming increasingly important. But then underneath the stratosphere, we have the aerial domain. Of course, we have the ground, and we have the surface or the water. And what we'll be doing Palantir is, starting in the stratosphere, we're starting to bring integrate autonomous systems across all those domains I just described. So we're moving the autonomy really from individual autonomy, say the drone can be autonomous, to mission autonomy, where these domains start to work together, leads to faster decisions. It leads to more productive outcomes for the Department of Defense.
Eric, did you ever think at this point in your career you'd be back to playing with balloons?
I did not actually. I did not. But Randy, it's fascinating. These technologies, what is old is new, I think, as you're saying. And
Yeah, yeah.
I remember your listeners will probably remember this because it made big news. Back in back several years ago when we had this, just random
Yeah,
balloon come from China, right? You remember
right.
this?
Yeah,
It was said to be just a balloon that got away, and it was a weather balloon. And
yeah,
I think it's fair to say we all know that was not just a random event.
yeah,
And and
yeah.
that sort of was an eye opener to folks like our worldview team, as well as the Pentagon, that say, hey,
Mm,
listen, this is a domain where we need to be competitive.
mm.
And what it turns out is that the intelligence and other tools you can deploy in the stratosphere becomes really important and valuable. So we've operationalized it. It's serious business, and it's being integrated across these domains and protecting our soldiers and our country.
I think we recovered that balloon and was able to inspect it, right?
We did. I don't know. And in terms of recovery, the details I haven't thought about in a while. But it was not. Firstly, it was a bit challenging because it was in our airspace, and
Right.
our security officials and the Air Force, for example, has to be very careful when you take things out of the sky.
Mm.
You want to know where it's going to drop. So I think they dropped that
Right.
over water, and they were able to cover it and sort of learn a bit. But at the same time, we kind of had a pretty good sense as to what was going on with the balloon.
Yeah, it's just fast. It's just amazing. It's just to think about all of the things that, and obviously you've got the inside track on a lot of that, Eric, and in terms of what's being developed and things that you might not even be able to talk about right now. But
Sure.
anything else that we should know about Ondas and what you guys are working on?
I think we did a good job, covering this. I mean, I think what you can see is that with Ondas, as we build our autonomous systems portfolio, that's in the air, that's with unmanned ground vehicles or robots. That's going to be increasingly sensors at the edge that make all this stuff work. You're going to see us start in counter drone technologies, right, which are really becoming more and more important, protecting U.S. populations from not just the threat of say, a hostile actor, but also the clueless and careless. Like, so drones are being deployed, a vast majority of the deployments, and there's more of them every day for
Mhm.
things that are good and productive for society. But of course, there's risks, and we have technologies that we're deploying that can lower those risks. So with counter drone systems, but what you're going to see is we're going to increasingly start to connect the ground and the air and other domains like the stratosphere, and I think that's going to be very important in roadmaps for the customers in the Department of War. And of course, we'll keep our community, people who are interested in Ondas, informed as we do that.
Yeah, and you talk about drones for security reasons too. I'm pretty well aware of that right now because we're based in Kansas City, and
Oh
we've
yeah,
got the World Cup starting today,
yep,
and so we've got a lot of the security measures around that. Some are known and some are not known, but
right.
I can almost guarantee you that drones are involved, right?
They absolutely are, and it can also do you one better, Randy, is that we're very familiar with the airspace security in Kansas City with our Centrix group, which is a provider of counter drone technologies. As we've reported more generically, we've been selected to secure airspace in more than half of the FIFA World Cup events. So and I think what the public should feel is that the authorities there have made investments, and that the airspace is being monitored, and I'm sure the games are going to go off without a hitch, and
Yeah.
be a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, I feel pretty. If you're any part of it, Eric, I feel pretty confident. You've been traveling a lot, I know, kind of around the world, around the globe. And do you have
Sure.
do you have a favorite airport?
A favorite airport? Oh my gosh. So we just moved the company down to Florida, so West Palm Beach, and I really like the Palm Beach Airport (PBI) mostly because it's very accessible. It's about 12 minutes from downtown West Palm Beach, so you can get in and out very easily, and it's user friendly. I've learned that they're going to rename the PBI to the Donald J. Trump Airport, so that's something people are going to be hearing more and more about
Yeah.
because that's a headline maker. But I like PBI, but Randy, I'll also add, I always have to bring it back to business because that's the way I'm wired. Is the technologies on the counter drone side that we're deploying are very relevant for airports, right? So you're going to see more systems being in technology being deployed to protect really all critical infrastructure in population centers, ranging from stadiums to airports to data centers to power plants and oil facilities, et cetera.
That's so cool. That's so great. Yeah, KCI in Kansas City, we just got a new airport a couple of years ago,
Okay.
and it was very accessible, but there was basically nothing in it. I mean, there were
Yeah.
a couple of restaurants, and if you had a flight after 8 o'clock at night, and a lot of people kicked about that, about the new
Okay.
airport because it was so easy and so accessible. And man, I mean, the airport there now is fantastic.
That's great because that makes a massive difference for the economy, right? So if you can
Right.
make the
Sure.
airport bigger, more productive, get people in and out, transportation really is a critical artery in our economy. So I'm thrilled to hear that, and I think maybe I have to use Kansas City Airport more frequently.
I think a lot of people are thinking that now. Well, Eric, thanks, man. It's great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for the information. Thanks for all the work that you guys are doing. And I know our men and women in the military certainly appreciate it and appreciate Ondas.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Randy. Look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, me too. Good to
All
see
right.
you.